Hello gamers, Kenning here from Fuzzle Bukkit, and as you can see, today we're going to be going over some more Hearthstone. I wasn't sure what content I was going to make this week, and while I was thinking, I was playing some Hearthstone, which is normally my go-to game, and I was playing against a rogue, and I noticed he played a Novice Engineer, and then he Shadowstepped that Novice Engineer for 2 card draws in the same turn, and later on in the match, he threw some Brewmasters in there, and he was moving some stuff around. And it got me thinking, you know what? I've got an idea. And quick disclaimer, if I didn't actually research this deck, I just kind of built it on my own, but if you find a deck that is identical, not likely, but it could happen, or something very similar, credit would go to that person for that deck. I'm not trying to copy anyone's deck or anything like that. I just happened to get an idea while I was playing. And so what I did was I made what I call my Replay Rogue. And essentially, it's like replaying. You have a lot of Shadowstep, a lot of return-friendly minion to your hand cards. I've got 2 Shadowsteps in here. I've got 2 Youthful Brewmasters. I got 2 Ancient Brewmasters. And essentially the idea is I'm going to drop down a bunch of cards, and then I'm going to pick them back up, and I'm going to keep playing them over and over again as much as possible. And what I did was I used these cards in combination with a lot of cards with battle cries. Now, the preparation is something I just threw in there because I had a couple extra slots, and I'm not sure if it's going to help or not. I haven't actually playtested the preparation card yet. I'm thinking since it deals with spells, it'll either give me a free Eviscerate or a much reduced cost Assassinate. So, anyway, let's go into so I got 2 Shadowsteps, which allow you to return a minion to your hand with 2 less cost, which is really nice. 2 Abusive Sergeants, which on Battlecry give, of course, your minion +2 attack. Very useful for bumping up any one of these creatures that's on the field. 2 Eviscerates, which are good for either 2 or 4 damage, especially when you combo that. It's good removal spells. 2 Defias Ringleaders, of course, because that combo allows you to put 2 minions on the board, especially with it's a very popular go second coin into a Defias Ringleader turn. 2 Ironbeak Owls for silence. I don't need the 4-cost silence. I just use the 2-cost silence because the idea here, and I've done it in some playtesting, is you drop the Ironbeak Owl, silence something, pick them back up with a Shadowstep or a Youthful Brewmaster, and then you can lay that silence right back down again if you have enough mana crystals, or the next turn, and you keep reusing these 2 Ironbeak Owls to silence everything if you need to. Novice Engineer, this is what gave me the idea. It's a 2-cost. You drop it down, draw a card, play your Shadowstep, you pick it back up, it now costs 0, you drop it back down, and you now have 2 card draws and a Novice Engineer all in one turn. Youthful Brewmaster does the same thing, plus it puts a 3/2 on the board. Shattered Sun Cleric is there because you give a friendly minion +1/+1, it's a very popular buff card, and if you pick it back up and drop it back down again, you're giving your friendly minions +2/+2. SI Agent, of course, is a nice combo with an extra 2 damage. Ancient Brewmaster, of course, picks your cards back up, but it also puts you 5/4 on the board. Now, I've actually had my Ancient Brewmaster on the board, and with my Defender of Argus, I've put the Defender of Argus down to bump up my Ancient Brewmaster with a taunt and a +1/+1, picked up our Defender of Argus, and dropped him down 2 more times. Really buffing up the Ancient Brewmaster. It was absolutely incredible. Kind of situational, doesn't normally happen, but that's I guess you guys probably get the idea by now, is you're dropping cards and picking them up and reusing them over and over again. Dark Iron Dwarf, same thing. So all these cards essentially have battle cries of some sort. Here's your Gnomish Inventor, which is another draw card. It's also got that 4 health, which is really nice. Assassinate's here because, well, my Silverhand Knight is the only high cost card I have other than well, my Ancient Brewmaster is a 5/4, I guess, and the Defender of Argus can help buff up. But you really don't have a lot of high, heavy-hitting cards, so you need an Assassinate in there to kind of take out some of those giants or some of those Boulder Fist Ogres or some of the larger things, or anything that's been buffed up really, really high. That coupled with, I'm thinking my preparation might help me a little bit. If you don't have enough, the only downside is if you don't have enough creatures on the board It's hard to buff them up, and most of these have a battle cry. Almost all of these really have a battle cry, and you really don't like to put down something with a battle cry if you can't use it. For example, you don't want to drop down a Defender of Argus when there's nothing else because you're losing that battle cry. Keep in mind you can pick them up again, so it's not a total loss. But I've noticed that there's two things. Obviously, this is an aggro deck. There's two main weaknesses with this deck right now. One is you don't have any minions to play your battle cries off of, in which case you have to drop something and then hope to pick it up and reapply that battle cry. And two, anything with mass removal. Yep, the mages. We all know. Especially the mages. They'll wipe the board with Flame Strike. You usually have several creatures on the board because you're trying to buff them up and pick them back up and that type of thing. And I've had a little bit of trouble with mages. But enough of the talking. Why don't we go ahead and jump right in and see what happens with our Rogue Replay deck. And our first match is against a Warlock. These are pretty popular right now with the whole aggro. Now, I am going to say that... well, hold on, let me decide here. I'm going to keep a Defias Ringleader. I'm going to keep a Novice Engineer, and I'm going to keep an Abusive Sergeant. These are really nice starting cards. I have a higher win-to-loss ratio with this deck than some of my other decks, but it is not a fail-proof wipe the board with anybody who comes across. It really is kind of hit or miss. The key thing about this particular deck is it is so fun to play. I just can't imagine my opponent's thought process when I pick up a card and drop it down 3-4 times in one turn. On round 2. It's I can't imagine what's going through mine. It's absolutely hilarious. I love it. So let's well, we're waiting on Chinese Lance here to make up his mind. Pass the turn, thank you. Okay, well, we have our preparation. I haven't used this card in the deck yet, so we'll see if that's going to have to be replaced or not. I am going to coin into my Defias Ringleader. Like I mentioned earlier, this is a really popular start. With the Flame Imp on the board, he's probably going to take one of these out, but we'll see what happens. I don't really have much else at this point. I mean, I could have coined into a Novice Engineer, but you're kind of giving up a coin for a card. I don't know if that's really a wise move. In this case, I had that Defias combo, so let's see what his decision is. Elven Archer, okay. Well played. And he bypasses for hero damage. Okay. Well, I think what we're going to do is, well, we're going to need to take out that Flame Imp. And we only have 2 mana crystals. I don't have many of my Shadowsteps or anything. I really like to start out with those. But unfortunately, it's not going to be the case. So we're going to do a card draw. There's our Shattered Sun Cleric. Take out the Flame Imp. And pass the turn. For our round 3, we'll... I don't know if we're going to do our Shattered Sun Cleric or not. We actually need to get rid of that Fairy Dragon somehow. I guess we're going to Abusive Sergeant into... Well, hold on. Well, the Shattered Sun Cleric is going to allow us to take out the Fairy Dragon, but we're still going to lose our Novice Engineer. Don't really want to waste Abusive Sergeants because she's going to die regardless. So, why don't we go ahead and do this. Take out the Fairy Dragon. Pass the turn. This is an aggro deck, but sometimes it's a little slow to start. If you go into late game, you may or may not run into some problems depending on your card draw. We haven't seen any of our taunts or anything yet, so that's kind of good actually. Save those for late game. Now the question is, now see here's one of the, okay, well I do have the Gnomish Inventor, which is probably going to be the play. But, you don't want to drop your Dark Iron Dwarf. As a matter of fact, you cannot drop him without anything else on the board because you have to give something +2 attack. So it looks like a draw card play. There's our Eviscerate, and well, we could actually use it with our preparation, but let's not and pass the turn. I think for turn 5, it really is dependent on what he's going to play right now. Can we push through some damage, or do we have to do some more removal? 2 Elven Archers. Interesting. Now, we don't have any mass removal in this deck, so It's kind of a one-on... Oh boy, what is he doing now? Hold on. Slow down there. Okay, there's my Defender of Argus. Kind of want some more on the board first. So we're going to sacrifice... How can we minimize damage here? Well, it looks like our play is going to be taking out our Shattered Sun Cleric and putting 2 minions on the board. That's about all I can do right now. I'm really pushing for maximizing my Defender of Argus with 2 other minions on the board. That's probably not going to happen. You should probably take at least one of these out. And Shadow Bolt, Siphon Soul. Okay, fair enough. And you take him out with the Elven Archer. He's going to clear the board. No, he chooses not to. Interesting. Okay, these are rushing me down, I see. So here's where we start getting our return to hand cards. Unfortunately, at this point, let's see, what can we do? I really need to get a taunt up because he's pushing a lot of damage. And well, what I can do, I don't really need... Okay, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and buff him up to 4. Drop down my Defender of Argus, so I've got 2 taunts. And I'm considering buffing him up to 7, but I think I'm going to hold off on that and push through some hero damage and see what he does. That way there's some taunts up and he kind of has to go through them. I'm not exactly comfortable with how this is playing out. It's okay, but I seem to be struggling to gain a foothold on the whole premise of this deck. It's not quite working out the way it's intended, which is, you know, it's RNG. You know, you get the cards, you get the cards. I mean, not much you can do about it. I suppose I could have not played ranked, and it seems to be a little easier to demonstrate the deck, but... and what will he do next? Well, he's got a 1/1 on the board, and he's got 1 mana left. He's going to pass the turn. Okay, now's where it gets interesting. So, what we're going to do... We need that combo for 4 to take care of the Dark Iron Dwarf. So in order to trigger that, why don't we go ahead and 1, 2, 3. Okay, so here we go. We're going to Abusive Sergeant our taunt, Eviscerate for the Dark Iron Dwarf. Now, before we take back our Defender of Argus, we're going to push some damage through. Use our Youthful Brewmaster to pull him back. That way we can use him again. Unfortunately, we can't use him again this turn. And we actually will weapon up here. Push 5 through and take care of the Elven Archer with our hero power and pass the turn. Starting to gain a little traction here. Feeling a little better. He's got 4 cards. And we are still pretty closely matched, so nothing is certain at this point. Demon Fire, okay, 2 damage, takes care of the taunt. Fairy Dragon. And he passes the turn. Alright, Shadowstep. Here we go. Let me see if I can do this correctly. We are going to Defender of Argus. We are going to Shadowstep. That drops its cost down to 2. Defender of Argus again, buffing that up, and let's go ahead and, I don't want to sacrifice my taunt, so even though it's down to 1 and that's susceptible to Mortal Coil, I think I'll be okay. Push in 4 damage, 1 to the face, hero power, put that coin back up, and I've noticed I haven't used Preparation yet. It's really only there for, I've only got 2 spells in the deck. I mean, I've got an Assassinate and I've got my Eviscerate, so I may actually replace this with something. I had a, what is it, Dragonhawk with the Wind Fury, and great, Lord Jaraxxus. Unfortunately, we can't silence a Lord Jaraxxus, can we? No, That would be interesting. Oh boy. That card really poses a problem. Perfect timing while I'm doing a recording. Thanks for doing that. So we got another 15 points to beat him down. Now I don't mind Lord Jaraxxus. It's a legendary. It's a great card. I don't mind the weapon. I don't mind the bringing the back, the 15 health. What I do mind, however, is the Inferno. 2 cost for a 6/6 Infernal I think is a little bit OP. I mean, don't you? That's pretty extreme if you ask me. So we may have some problems here, but we'll see if we can't push through it. And are we still waiting? I mean, okay. Alrighty. So what we're going to do here is there's nothing to silence, so I'm going to put a Dark Iron Dwarf, bump him up to, and then let's do a Defender of Argus, pump him up even more. 3, and well played. I wonder why he didn't bring out an Infernal. That was interesting. Of course, it wouldn't have helped him any. He wouldn't have had a taunt. But anyway, I hope you like the deck. That's a quick example. I'll go ahead and post the deck list in the comments below. Once again, I'm Kenning from Fuzzle Bukkit. Be sure to like, subscribe, and post in the comments if you want to see more of this deck or maybe more of an extended playthrough, or you have any suggestions or comments, let me know. I'll catch you on the flip side.